Good morning, everyone. We are about to go ahead and get started. My name is Ruthie Senanayaka, and I work on the Blueprint marketing team. So I do the events, social media, a little bit of everything. And we are so thankful that you all took some time out of your morning to join us for this awesome webinar hosted by Jason and Thomas. So a little bit about Blueprint, if you are not too sure about what we do. We take care of everything from strategy to implementation when it comes to digital transformation, or in this case, circular inventory, or whatever it is you are looking at transforming within your business, whether it's dealing with data or you're not sure what to do with all of the data that you've collected. We're here to help with that. And so I hope you get some really great insights today with this webinar. First of all, I'm going to have Jason introduce himself, and then next we'll go over to Thomas.
Thank you, Ruthie. Yeah, so my name is Jason McCracken. I am about 2 years in with Blueprint, coming from a long history of retail and technology in my background. Super passionate about what the retail space holds and what the telecommunication space holds, also in relationship to retail, i.e., T-Mobile, AT&T stores, things of that nature. I'm super excited today to share with you what we've got going on. Thomas?
Thanks, Jason. I'm Thomas Shaw. I'm Jason's counterpart down in the South Central region out of DFW, and long history in data and analytics and machine learning, data science, and a lot of that is focused on the restaurant and retail and hospitality industries. So what we'll be focused on today is share Jason's excitement and talk to you guys about how we've leveraged some of that at Blueprint.
Awesome. Thanks so much for giving us that quick intro, guys. I want to let everyone know that we want to keep this as informative and also interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, please be sure to add that to the Q&A section. All you have to do is click on the Q&A button. You can ask a question anonymously if you'd like, or you can add your name in there, whatever you feel most comfortable with. And then if you have any technical issues or something else going on that you'd like to send us via chat, you can send that directly to the panelists, and I'll be sure to connect with you on that. We will also be sharing the recording of this on our social media, so be sure to like and follow our social media pages. We're on Facebook. Actually, we're live on Facebook right now. We're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, and we are live tweeting this event on Twitter as well. So if you have any cool thoughts you want to add in, be sure to tweet us on there as well. So without further ado, take it away.
Thanks, Ruthie. Okay, guys, so today we're going to talk about the importance of in-store inventory management and the quest for accuracy, right? So in today's world with the information age and big data blowing up, the need for accuracy is just more critical and important than ever. It moves that needle ever so slightly, has such a huge return. And we can talk about some of the examples around that. But it's the way folks are using data to optimize inventory and just save every dollar is just getting more and more refined, and at all times. And it's as we move more and affects that supply chain division of your in retail and in restaurants as well. It just again just becomes more and more important. So let's talk about how we use data science to improve inventory management, but in supply chain overall. But first, let's really look at just how complicated the supply chain process is. For folks that are deep in the retail industry, this is not new to you, but it's still worth revisiting just to get a visual of how it touches every aspect of the business. It really does, from soup to nuts, from vendors to customers, and everything it takes for planning, for development, for how you source, how you do order processing. All the different faces. We've come a long way since brick and mortar, and all the different faces of how you interact with a customer, how you do purchasing, how you do selling, how you do loyalty. So we're going to talk about things like inventory optimization, how you do a better job of predicting it using data and AI. But also, Jason's going to highlight something called circular inventory. And in my many years of working in this industry, that was new to me. So Jason's taught me a lot about how the importance of that circular inventory is, and not only reducing your carbon footprint, but just how it saves money as well. And everything, again, with if there's any volume in any industry, just little things like that just move the needle so slightly, have millions of dollars of return on it. So, but again, every aspect of your business and how it's of your supply chain business and how it's rapidly changing in the market and how you need to react in the market. When things are trending, when things are, not just seasonal. Historically, a lot of folks just use data or tacit knowledge, tribal knowledge to think about things seasonally or year over year or time of day of the week, based on certain restaurants, certain things like that might have different spikes. And now you have all these outside influences, like things that are trending or other market where you're forced to bring as much data as possible. And which we'll highlight today too is some where you need that real time as well, or at least near real time. So, but first, let's talk about some things in this top left corner here about the recycling flow of used and manufactured products and product return, and this circular inventory concept that Jason's going to highlight on. So I'll hand off to him.
Thanks, Thomas. Yeah. So as we all know, this linear kind of map that you see here is kind of our standard understanding of inventory within retail, especially if you're a retailer that does RTVs or return to vendor when the product gets returned, right? They don't really see a circular inventory yet. What typical retailers see is, we buy the product, our buyers will purchase it from a manufacturer. That manufacturer creates it, gets it over to the retailer sells it, goes through, gets used, maybe it gets maintenance, and maybe it gets serviced or maintenance throughout the process. And at some point it either gets, maybe returned to a store that gets tossed away or put in a landfill. And in some cases, there are some companies out there, companies like Trove is one of them that actually manages some of the circular inventory in that process. But it's very linear in the way that it works today. And we're looking to not just really disrupt, but improve and enhance that linear motion. And if we go to the next slide, I can talk a little bit more about that. Our animatronics are fantastic. I love it. So essentially, when we look at circular inventory management, what do we gain by that? So if you remember the previous slide, it was very linear. Product is purchased or created, purchased, sent to the retailer. Customer buys it, uses it. Maybe they return it. Maybe they throw it away. And it's kind of like a dead end, right? When we talk about circular inventory, what we're really talking about is product coming in to the retailer, being used by a customer, being enjoyed and loved, and then either one option is they can throw it away or donate it or what have you to a Goodwill or whatnot. But what we want to talk about within circular inventory is actually the opportunity where a customer can bring that product back to either the store or online, however they choose to. And the company then retains that inventory back into their ecosystem and then refurbishes it and or cleans it up and prepares it to be resold as a pre-loved product back to a new customer. And the reason why this is so important is a couple different levels. One, you've now decreased your carbon footprint for that product because it is no longer going to be sent to a landfill, burned in a burn pile somewhere, or just destroyed in some other manner. There actually are some companies that will destroy their logo off a product and send it overseas, which has some good altruistic benefits. But in the circular inventory model, we want to talk about keeping customers within the ecosphere of the retailer. So if I have a product, let's call it a jacket, and I buy that jacket, I buy it at full retail, I love it. And then maybe it's moving on to a new season, or I want it, you know, a new color or something. I can bring back that product, and as long as it's in good or resellable condition, as a retailer, I can now go and inform other customers within my ecosphere that have opted in, that I'm engaging with. Hey, there's a product that you were looking at a year ago that was, maybe it was either out of your price range, or you just didn't buy for some reason at full price. But I see that you like use or pre-loved gear. So I'm now going to message you and say, hey, that jacket that you really loved last year that you didn't get, it's now live and ready inside this store to go pick up. That's kind of what circular inventory in a nutshell talks about. And we can go to the next slide and get a little more granular. So when we talk about affinity for the brand, some folks call it affinity. Other folks, like like T-Mobile, they call it the love for the brand. But essentially, they're saying the same thing. How does a customer feel a closeness to the brand, and if the brand understands me as a customer? We obviously have already worked in a lot of ways to get smart with our algorithm and smart with technology to understand, like, if I have a customer who, you know, really likes this, you know, product, I can market to that customer for that product on a one-to-one basis. A lot of retailers have done that really, really well. Well, what we want to do with circular inventory and with the modern data estate is really show a full 360 view of not only that product to the customer, but to the retailer. When I'm a retailer that understands the ecosphere of that specific jacket, to use the previous example, and I understand not only its process from the manufacturing, purchasing from my procurement or my sourcing organization, to my marketing, merchandising, retail, all those organizations connected, and if that product is then returned, I can reduce the erosion of the amount spent on that product and increase my revenue on that one item, because rather than a product being returned and then losing contact with that item for 20 days, 30 days, while a third-party retailer, you know, looks at the product, cleans it up, makes sure it's good, and then sends it back to me to then sell to another customer. With the modern data estate and the circular inventory engine that we're talking about, as soon as that jacket hits that counter at a local store, and in Georgia, myself in Bellevue that's been looking for that jacket gets a ping on my device. Hey, Jason, that jacket you really wanted but didn't pick up, you know, last month has just hit a counter in Georgia. You want to put dibs on it, or, you know, whatever the term you want to be. I like dibs. I'm a 90s kid. I like saying I call dibs, right? So I want to put dibs on that jacket. So now I immediately, as the retailer, understand that not only do I have a product that just hit the counter, has been returned, but I immediately, or very shortly afterwards, have a buyer who's ready to take that product as a pre-loved piece of gear. So my erosion has gone down to next to nothing. And I've now created an entirely new ecosphere to not only reduce landfill and reduce carbon footprint of that product, but increase revenue and increase market affinity or brand affinity for the brand, because I am now connected to a person who cares about the same things I care about. So what are the perks of the process? We're increasing visibility and affinity to the brand. We talked about that. If I know that the brand that I work with cares about the planet like I do, I'm deeper into that company. We're going to decrease the carbon footprint, because not only are we not putting product back into the landfills, but by not having to send a product back via a truck to a warehouse to then pick, pack, and ship and maintain that product and ship back to a customer, by reducing those truck rolls, we're greatly reducing our carbon footprint. We're increasing the market share. When I have a better love and affinity for the brand, I'm going to use that brand more often. It's retail 101, right? Increase revenue and AOV, our average order value. If I know that if I have a product that is a pre-loved gear, I can go into a store and get a jacket or t-shirt or whatever the product is, and I can go to that store and pick it up. While I'm there, your typical retail flow takes over, right? When I'm in the store, I have a higher probability of improving that AOV due to merchandising and deals inside the store, and increasing customer sat. It goes without saying. When I can meet you where you are, and I can give you the product that you want before you even go shopping for it, because maybe you have a pre-search history from a year ago. I'm now happier because you understand me, right? And then increasing the demographics to improve GIS data sets. We have a robust ability to bring GIS data to the table that, on top of circular inventory, allows retailers to go deeper than they've ever been able to go when it comes to targeting certain demographics or regionalities, and therefore increase their marketing efforts and their circular inventory efforts within specific geographic areas, if those areas are more likely to use circular inventory. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Thomas.
Thanks, Jason. So yeah, it's one thing that Jason touched on is, or a lot of things that Jason touched on, is just every aspect of the business that that touches, that it requires, from vendor to customer, and every thing in between around supply chain, is why what we call a modern data estate is so important. It's traditionally, BI was, there's a lot of impetus to business intelligence, but some of the main ones were to stop querying from the transactional system and the performance issues that come with that, but also just consolidating data that was siloed. And it's still, that becomes one of the main barrier to entries, or anything, starting points for any kind of data management projects and efforts or initiatives by companies today, is siloing that data or unsiloing that data, de-siloing, let's say, and getting a more holistic view into your process, no matter the industry. And so when you have things like a supply chain that touch so many aspects of your business, it becomes more important than ever to just have a data consolidation and aggregation view. But then with the evolution of big data, it's where this need for a more modern data estate that's flexible, that can grow, that can and ingest new data in new data sources in near real time, just becomes more important than ever than what your traditional data warehouse or BI project couldn't stomach or couldn't handle, where things it couldn't process or couldn't ingest data as easily. And so it just becomes so much more important to have a more modernized data approach. So outside of just the all the aspects of the supply chain process, let's think about just the what the customer journey looks like, and everything from awareness to loyalty and recurrence. I think we would all probably agree, whether we want to admit it or not, social media is probably one of the biggest influencers out there for retail and restaurant, and whether it's a source, whether it's reviews, whether it is far surpassed anything you see. But radio, TV, even print are still important. Anybody that buys a mattress, I think, still probably picks up a newspaper and looks at those heads of counts on billboards. So those things won't go away. But just everything that goes into awareness, whether it be social media or other advertisements, word of mouth, searching, email programs, then how do you start to convert someone? And how do you know what's working and what's not? So that's where one of the first aspects is getting from awareness to consideration. What is working? One of the early BI projects I did in my career was at Ameritrade, and they wanted to understand what advertisements were having people do more day trading or more frequent trading. What programs did they subscribe to? Whether it be certain subscriptions that they had, or whether it be ads. Which things were resulting in more trade volume, and they classified everyone from dormant to how active they were as a trader, and then you knew what was working, what wasn't. That's what to this day that becomes a very important use or critical use of your data estate, is understanding which of your ads, which programs, which social media, what things are working to convert people, not just from getting more traffic and awareness, but to consideration. And then up to purchase, and how do you have better insight into the things you're investing money in to attract people to your store and attract people to your product and get into purchase? How do you really gauge and measure that? And that is everything from your brick and mortar to your online presence and whatever the face of your products are. Talking about the mattresses again, I had a client that they'd have a clicker every time somebody walked in the store, and they wanted to know that was how much traffic they had, and then they had an average ticket price, but their other big metric was conversion rate. How many people walk in that they actually sell? And the target conversion rate on mattress shopping is around 70 to 75%. People don't do a lot of window shopping when they're doing it. Somebody walks in their store, you better sell them a mattress, 3 out of 4. And that is, understanding what's working, what's not. And in that particular implementation, those 3 metrics were primary. Well, in our original demo of rolling that product out, they saw that stores sales were down in one part of the country, and they started looking at the metrics, and conversion rate was high, average ticket price was high, but traffic was low. And then doing ad hoc advanced analytics, they started pulling in other factors, other metrics. And one thing they pulled in was their advertising, and they noticed they had slashed certain advertising around newspapers to bring that reference full circle. And it was almost a parallel line on sales, traffic, and their advertising cut in that particular area. And so they learned, they had so much insight just in the first day of using this product that they hadn't had in the past on understanding what, the cause and effect that was in a certain area that might be different for another area, right? And so, understanding all the things around your customer and then what keeps them coming back. What about your loyalty programs? How much are you putting into that? How much repeat buying do you have? And that, from retail or also just in restaurants as well. You guys, the rest of the country probably doesn't have free birds, but I just got a free birds burrito this weekend for my loyalty program. And I guess keep coming back, right? The kids eat free on Sundays. So understanding what works and what doesn't, you can't say that enough. Is just providing that insight, but also what are some of the things that are driving people to your store as well becomes even more important. Why you need a modern data estate, because we have new influencers every single day. So I don't remember when this was, but you fellow Texans, you'll recognize Travis Scott here from hailing from H-Town. But Travis Scott, McDonald's put a meal around with his name on it, and because of something that I believe he tweeted or influenced in some way, and it drove so much traffic to their stores. If people remember the big Popeyes chicken sandwich fiasco, a year or two ago, where for the next few weeks, every Chick-fil-A and Popeyes chicken in the country had a drive-through line around the door at lunch because people wanted a chicken sandwich because of one tweet that was promoting those. And so if now we have to think about every type of influence out there, whether it be social media or word of mouth, but and what are all the different channels of social media or influence that come, or where these things come in. And today it might be Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and TikTok, and tomorrow there could be a new TikTok. And with an agile modern data estate, you need to be able to bring in and ingest all of that data, what's trending, and these new sources that might pop up tomorrow. What's going to be the next greatest thing tomorrow? And so when Kylie Jenner posts a picture of herself holding a Louis Vuitton bag, someone at Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom, they need to know that right away. They can't wait for someone to walk over to the supply chain folks and say, hey, Kylie just posted a picture of our bag. We better fill our stores tomorrow. That has to be systematic. That has to be something that comes in that they have the ability to know and react to that. If somebody tweets something about whether Popeyes or Chick-fil-A has a better chicken sandwich, you can't get a bunch of chickens over there in that afternoon, but you can react the next day. And that had for the next few weeks that that impacted their business, and they needed to up their labor at lunchtime and their inventory and everything, right? And so you have to be able to react in these real-time patterns. Jason, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I want to just kind of double click on the benefit of a true modern data estate. We all live in a world, and we all, especially if we're in the retail space, in a world where within the walls of HQ, or within the business, if you will, you have all these varying silos, right? Purchasing, strategy, the C-suite, customer service, and everybody does a great job at their given silo, and they do the best they can to take care of the customer, take care of the business. But essentially, what a lot of times what happens is that whether you're in finance or supply chain or legal or whatever, if you need data on what's happening within the business, or at least with what's happening within the business as it relates to your scope, it's a lot of man hours and a lot of pulling teeth to get on a sprint to have an engineer pull the data and then send you an Excel file that's usually a month-old data, right? I've lived through this when in my previous life, we were launching a brand new product within T-Mobile, and all of the data that we needed to have, not only was it a month old, but it was given to us through the spectrum of the person who actually generated the data or who compiled the data, rather than us as the new business unit needing it as raw and fresh. So it hindered growth, right? We overcame it, but at the beginning it hindered growth. A true modern data estate helps remove that barrier. What it allows anybody within any one of these silos, or you can make concentric circles out 100 miles long because there's so many different groups. Anybody within any one of these groups can go in through the power of a BI tool and look at a specific piece of data across the modern data estate, across the EDW, that relates to their business in near real time, and make smart strategic decisions on the future based on what's happening now, and also with the future state based on, like what Thomas was saying, when it comes to either social media or upcoming events and things like that. Imagine a world where, if we go back to the circular inventory model, just to kind of use this again, somebody drops that jacket back on the counter, says, hey, I want to return it. And then because of the true modern data estate, the teams within marketing, strategy, merchandising, loyalty, retail, supply chain, they all know about that return at that moment. Then how much smarter are their decisions for the future based on knowing when products are being returned and at what rate, and then also what they're selling at and how fast they're selling. Coming from a procurement background, I'll tell you that if I know that jackets I buy have an X% return rate, and then another X% of resale rate from that return, I can now go to that manufacturer of that jacket when I'm negotiating my deal for the next season and say, hey, you were giving me this price for this jacket based on what I know on what my actual revenue is on that jacket. I now am more empowered from a procurement standpoint to negotiate a better deal with that jacket manufacturer on the next season. And that's just one silo, right? Every one of these silos with a true modern data estate that can really look at these detailed transactions in a near real time, or maybe they're a day old at most standpoint, are now so much more empowered to make smarter decisions for the future, and at a cheaper cost, because now I'm not going and having to ask an engineer or 5 different people to pull data and take their time doing that. This is only accomplished through a true modern data estate and a true connective tissue amongst all these silos, and Blueprint is the company to build that for you.
Absolutely. So it's again, I just wanted to come back here to the full supply chain process, just to the reminder of just every aspect of the business that it takes to work together. You can't stand the word synergy, but it does take a synergy of all of these departments to make an efficient supply chain process operate smoothly, but also just again, how that affects inventory and just moving the needle ever so slightly. I saw a question asked if we've actually implemented this. I think did it say actually, but we've actually implemented this for our clients, and yes, we have. We are doing real life data science and machine learning projects at Blueprint, and in one retail company in particular, we were able to match their inventory accuracy percentage on the way they measure stockouts and what their accuracy on having things, the right number of items in store. One thing I learned with them is they rather have an overabundance of items, even things like perishables, if it's a grocery store and things go bad, than have a shortage. Revenue always more important than the margin or it just seems like, I don't know, I can't say that applies to everything, but more often than not, and in this case, it's so much more important for them to have every possible product on the shelf, so they don't have that opportunity cost or that loss of not being able to sell something as opposed to something going to waste. So anyway, in this one particular instance, the company, the retailer had about somewhere between 73 and 75% accuracy on their inventory, and within 8 weeks, we were able to put in a machine learning algorithm and pulled in a lot of historical data, but also external data as well. And we're able to match and exceed that percentage within 8 weeks. And then like any AI algorithm, it's a machine learning, right? So it continues to learn and evolve as it gets more data, as they add more external data, and it doesn't do all the work for you. It does, the reference snake silver, it helps you find the needle in the haystack or the signal in the noise, right? But and so what are the factors that help you do, move to improve your inventory accuracy? But it also, there's no human component where you can be tweaking things and adding more data, and then also removing data. I mean, that's one of the first things, that machine learning algorithms do, is it's removing data that is not necessary as well. So it's reducing the amount of data that's necessary to process that. And so, that is one thing that, for that particular customer, as that evolves and grows, even with just a small set of, I think with like 3,000 SKUs, which was, I think, less than 20% of their SKUs, and just a fraction of their stores, I think maybe less than 10% of their stores, that had a 10-digit ROI annually. And so you think about just that very small percentage, just moving the needle ever so slightly, having a return that easily. I mean, this is, you got to ask yourself why everybody's not doing this. Moving the needle so slightly in inventory accuracy is just so critical.
And I'm just going to read that question out really quick so that everyone is able to know exactly what question you're referring to, Thomas. So the question that came in was, have you actually leveraged machine learning for supply chain at for any of your clients? If so, what were the results? So that was the answer to that. I'm going to hop in to the next question. We have quite a few. And just a quick reminder, if you do have any questions that you'd like us to ask live, you can just add it to the Q&A section, and we'll be sure to answer that for you. So the next question that we have is, we are well over a year into the pandemic and supply chains are still disturbed. Is this because we are so dependent on global supplies? How have businesses not been able to course correct? Thomas or Jason?
Yep. Sorry. So it's, it feels like a loaded question. I mean, I would say that, data is so critical to that process. It has been a disruption. It's been even more important. You don't have historical data to, help predict for a situation like the pandemic, right? Like quarantine, we do. It's 100-year-old data, right? But it's a supply lines are down. I'm a big Amazon Fresh person. I'm really frustrated that I can't get sugar-free ginger ale anymore. When I want to, and it's whatever reason these supply lines are down. Why not use data to understand more about what those replacements are. You know, Amazon, there are some articles out there about how they are course correcting and understanding what the right alternatives are, which options are chosen the most, and how you can course correct. You know, by finding just as many alternatives as possible without being able to fix the supply chain or supply line, you know, problem, right? And Jason, you have a long history in dealing with you know, vendors and having to overcome shortages and whatnot. It's yeah. Have you seen that? You know, this is a problem that predates the pandemic for other various reasons, right? But if you want to talk about some other examples there, why customers, you know, where companies have had to course correct in the past and why they haven't been able to do so now.
Yeah, I mean, the one that's kind of nearest and dearest to my heart was as a store manager for Office Depot for nearly 5 years. You know, when I say ours, I mean Office Depot's. Our Christmas season was back to school, right? That was when we went black, right? That was our Black Friday. So when you're talking about not as a store manager, having even our district managers and all the way up to our regional managers had little to zero influence or say on the inventory that would come in for that back to school season. It was preset, they're preset pogs that were ready to go. And it was really nice and easy to set up as an employee. The problem is that you had no say on whether you got 5 stanchions of erasers or 2. You got what they said at HQ you needed. And that what happened was you either had two problems. One, which is the biggest problem, you don't have enough inventory for your actual clientele, for the people that you know and talk to every day that come into your store. So that customer service is affected and that revenue is affected because now they have, you know, they're not feeling as great about coming into that store because you didn't have what you needed. And 2, which is another problem, I don't sell everything because you gave me too much. And now I've got an overstock problem where now I need to either spend time and money to ship to another store or ship back to the warehouse, or take massive markdowns and sell it as low as I can go until it gets to a penny. And as everybody in retail knows, once that product gets to a penny, it's basically garbage. I mean, not even basically, it's literally garbage. You're instructed to pack it up, send it back to the warehouse so that they can throw it away or go out to the dumpster. So logistically, it's a nightmare. And if with a true modern data estate solution and a true empowerment of everyone in a retail store with authority or with access, i.e. assistant manager, store manager, whatever, to really say, hey, I know my customers and I know that Joe down the street has a huge need for these erasers, for example. And I know that the company is only going to send me 1,000, but he needs 10,000. Now, there's ways you can go and you can actually order more of those products online on behalf of the customer and all that good stuff. And that's great. But if I know that I have a higher demand, I, as a store manager who has access and who has a responsibility to a P&L, should be able to say, you know what? I need to bump this up with justification, and I need to have the tools and availability to do that without having to go through 100 different people to get that approval. And this is what a true modern data estate and a true intelligent inventory management program enacted within your business allows you to do. It allows you to let managers or assistant managers, people within the retail store that want to learn how to become those leaders of the future. It gives them that power of the purse, if you will, to control their own destiny with financially and inventory. It allows them to get closer to their customer, right? And then on the back end, because they're smarter with their inventory, reduce the manpower on inventory day, which, look, everybody's in retail knows that inventory sucks. Doing it is like a month-long worth of process of prep. It's overnights, it's long days, it's a nightmare, right? My fingers still hurt from peeling open boxes, from counting, hand counting inventory for months, okay? If you're in retail, you know what I'm talking about. We can reduce that or even get close to removing it with a true modern data estate where I can know minute to minute where my inventory really is. I can add more if I need to, and I can reduce it by either obviously doing sales or sending off to back to the warehouse if it's stuff that I'll never sell before it gets to clearance, so that the logistics team can send it out to another store that's actually going to sell it.
Excellent. Thanks so much for answering that question, guys. The next question that we had come in is, how does your circular inventory model differentiate retailers who use it versus those who do not?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll go ahead and take that one. So companies that really embrace a circular inventory model, I'll use REI as an example. They're a company that is embracing the circular inventory model in a very big way. What it's allowing them to do is create a better relationship with the customer. And I mean relationship like long term, you know what I'm saying? Like it's creating that bond that you, the customer, and me, the retailer, or the co-op, as it were in retail and REI, we think the same. We are one and the same in how our mindset is about the world, about how we want to leave the world a better place. And you know, when we go outdoors, we want to leave it better than when we found it, right? This is part of that id, as they say, you know, that ties these two together. So they're on the path of actually creating a really strong love and for the brand, even though there's obviously many different products and brands and logos within the REI ecosphere. But rather than going, oh, hey, I want to go get this jacket at, you know, Macy's or something. So when you built that brand, or that love for the brand, because you guys think the same ideologically, I can use my words. Now I'm already gonna go to REI, right? There's as opposed to, there are companies that have not adopted this. Some of it is by design. There's some companies that are straight RTV, return to vendor. When somebody returns something, it goes straight to the vendor and let them deal with it. But then there's some that would love to have this opportunity. I think what would be really interesting is that those retailers that do just have an RTV model, to actually look at some of those high return or high demand products with those vendors and say, look, for this SKU set or this category, we want to switch on a circular inventory model. Let's walk before we run, right? If I look at Home Depot, for an example, most of Home Depot's product is RTV, right? Something goes wrong, it goes back to Milwaukee or Skill or whatever. If we were to turn on just one category, let's call it hardware, right? And say on these products, a lot of tools would get reused if somebody had it as maybe a previously loved product. Let's bring that back in, open up a circular inventory, and resell these products as a pre-loved product on Home Depot. That would just retain a lot of that really high margin product. Hardware is a super high margin category, right? Same as plumbing. Plumbing is massively huge margin. So those companies who are not using it could, if they wanted to, walk before they run. And I believe that they're losing that love for the brand that they could on people who are really looking to reduce carbon footprint, you know, reduce costs, because not everybody can buy a $500 drill, but maybe they can buy a $250 drill, right? That's maybe a year old, somebody else used, and they're fine with that. There's a reason why sites like OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace and all these places are blowing up, because people are like, yeah, I don't mind buying something that's a year old if it's been treated really well, and I can save a chunk of money. So why not let the retailer do that, own that customer experience, and then of course own the data and the marketing chops to go, now I have a whole new ecosphere of customers that I didn't even realize existed before, because they never really shop with me, because maybe we were out of the price point, or, you know, they just didn't want to mess with me because they want to buy pre-loved stuff. The answer to the question is, because I can go on about this forever. You can tell I'm super passionate about it. The retailers that are ready to tackle the circular economy and circular inventory are the ones that are going to win in the long run when it comes to customer love, when it comes to really mining customer data for true marketing assets and insights, and the ones that are going to really win on the carbon footprint, you know, green initiative, sustainability, because they're able to now, when they're in that circular inventory model, they're able to actually say, yes, we have a view of the world about sustainability and we're acting on it. And this is the proof. We're not just talking about it, oh, we have a green building. That's cool. but what are you doing with the customers to help improve your sustainability? And that's where circular inventory really shines. That'll be the difference between the haves and the have-nots when it comes to sustainability as it relates to circular inventory.
Jason, I just have to say, I love how passionate you are. And I love all of these examples you give us. I mean, it makes it like stick in my head. I love it. So the next question that we have is how exactly is data used differently for demand planning versus inventory optimization?
So, yeah, I can take that. It's demand forecasting and inventory optimization or inventory planning are obviously very close second, cousins, if you will. But there's a lot more aspects of demand planning. Inventory optimization is about knowing what you need to have on your shelves and are available with products for whether it's restaurants, whether it's retail, right? And also, but it's there's also like the capacity planning. Think about the labor you might need. In the restaurant industry, that becomes very important if you're gonna have a wave of chicken sales at lunch every day, chicken sandwich sales. You want to up your labor, right? So it's capacity planning, but it's but also it's taking it a step further. In demand forecasting, the different schools of thought around it, I think, or I guess different versions of it are active. There's active planning, passive planning, short-term, long-term. Then again, your capacity planning, but also just the macroeconomic perspective of demand forecasting. When you think about what are the things happening in the market, and not just my long-term planning, but what are the things, you can't always predict stuff in a pandemic, but what are some of the outside economic factors that impact a product's, demand and or hype or whatever it might be. It's one of the most fascinating books I ever read was Freakonomics, and some of that book is a stretch, but there's a lot of things where they tie A to B and think, of what drove certain behaviors and certain scenarios. And with data, it's no longer taking an economist in that regard. Stephen Few can probably still do more than not students. Stephen Levitt can probably do more than any machine learning algorithm still, but reduce that dependency on an economist or an analyst, and using data to help do the macroeconomic analysis on what's impacting, what's coming down the pike in future planning. It's so important for demand planning and especially for the long term, and your capacity planning, which is how we differentiate it from, I think anybody does, from just the inventory optimization.
And I just want to double click on that real quick, Shaw, because
don't say double click.
Can we just
Drilling.
Another part with demand planning as it relates to circular inventory, right? And I'm going to keep going back to this. What's really fantastic is if I know that I've got a spike coming up on a need for a certain product, and I have customers, 1,000 customers that bought that product 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and I know that from a marketing perspective, I need that inventory, I can reduce my out of stocks greatly, because that's the number one killer in retail is out of stocks, right? So if I know that I'm low on inventory on new product, but I have a bunch of people that I could ping and say, hey, do you want to, sell back your product to me? Maybe get some, gift card or whatnot for your product, or I can generate an understanding of what pre-loved inventory I have coming in stock. That greatly reduces the dreaded out of stock notification that somebody gets when they try to buy something. I can get a notification that says, you know what, I don't have this new, but I've got 3 pre-loved items that are ready for you, and guess what, they're like 40% off, right? Thereby keeping the customer in the ecosphere, keeping that affinity, reducing landfill, and nearly reducing nearly removing the out of stock. There's nothing worse than the dreaded out of stock, and circular inventory helps remove that. And that goes again, Thomas, with the demand planning. If I know that I've got a lot of demand coming, I can reach out to customers who previously bought that product and say, you ready to sell? Because I'm ready to buy, because I've got other customers that want it.
Excellent. I love all these insights. Thank you so much for going into that deep dive, Jason. So I don't see any other Q&As or questions added to the Q&A section. I'll just give you guys one more minute to add in any questions if you'd like. I did want to mention I'm going to add into the chat right now. I'm going to add 3 blog posts that we actually have around these topics. So I know Jason has been a part of curating the content for this. This has some really great insights, and I think anyone who's attending this webinar and listening and understanding and wanting to learn more about these topics would really enjoy this read. So go ahead and click on those and visit our website to learn more about inventory management, circular inventory, and really anything to do with that. But I think we are good on all the questions. Thank you so much, Jason and Thomas, for taking the time to put all of this together and put together this great presentation. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who took time out of your day to join us today. Make sure you are following us on social media. We will be posting the recording on there. I will also be sharing an email with everyone after this with the blog post that I've shared and some other great content as well. We will be having many more webinars to come in the future. So if you want to stay in the loop, again, follow us on social media. But thank you all, and we hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Ruthie. Thanks, Al.